wrote in your publication, New World Order, that you thought the Quad was the beginning of a global democratic alliance, and that somehow this was the rising up of India in a international setting alongside, the other more developed countries. Why is that? What do you think the Quad is for India? And do you think that will actually lead to a more integrated relationship with Quad member countries?
Yes. So, as far as the Quad goes, a little bit of background on this is that when the Quad was actually officially formed, I don't know how much of this came out officially, but India really didn't uh, take it that seriously or was very proactive in it for the first couple of years. Uh, in a way, the shadow of China loomed large on Quad, and this goes the same for the India-Australia relationship as well. Neither of them will admit it officially, but the Chinese influence was always a big factor in this in the India-Australia relationship as well. Australia would not fully engage with India in certain sectors uh, because of China, and India would do the same with Australia on that front. That kind of played into the Quad initially. Uh, when Prime Minister Modi came to power in his first term, he made a conscientious effort and a very genuine effort to reach out to China. He was looking to change the entire power dynamic in Asia. He wanted to get much closer to China than India was already. But trade-wise, dealing with China is something else, and strategically dealing with China is a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, I think we have some experience of that here in Australia at the moment.
Yes. I think the entire world is seeing a new side, well, not a new side, but the other side of China in the last year or so. The pandemic, of course, has perhaps speeded up that entire process. But people do have now issues, countries have issues dealing with China. As I was saying, Prime Minister Modi very soon understood that strategically dealing with China would not be as easy as he thought it would. Now, right after the pandemic, and this is last year, early 2020, essentially, I talked to a number of people. I have friends in the academia, the defense sector. And at that point, they all started telling me that 2020 onwards, the entire narrative of Quad is going to change with India. And India would definitely be taking it a lot more seriously. As I said, the pandemic struck right after that, and that kind of added the urgency for India to make Quad happen in a little faster way, I would say. And the entire bureaucratic machinery started working very hard towards this initiative, the Quad initiative. And I think now India sees it as a platform to really rise above as the leader in the Asia Pacific. The fact that Joe Biden addressed the Quad as his first international meeting after taking office, I think says a lot to the kind of importance America has also placed
and the rising of it to a
Australia,
leaders meeting.
Always.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say it wasn't originally a leaders meeting, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It was supposed to be a foreign minister's level delegation, but they elevated it to the leaders, which I think worked very well. India sees itself as I said, the next leader in this entire region. They want to take on China in everything that they do now. We still have a border crisis going on with China on one of our borders, which is I don't think it's going to resolve anytime soon the way it's going.
The Quad now has been elevated, as we said, to a leaders level meeting. President Biden is now part of that discussion, and very early on in his term, got engaged and involved in it. But what does it actually hope to achieve, other than dialogue between democracies? How will it actually represent itself in a sort of more powerful bloc? I mean, if you think of multilateral institutions like the EU or ASEAN or others, they are largely economic in nature. But this isn't economic in nature, is it?
So I think when the Quad was formed, the idea was that the vision behind it was to be a strategic forum, so to say. But I think very soon it developed into a lot more. The very first meeting of the leaders, the prime minister, etc., Prime Minister Modi met his counterparts. They actually, the two main things they discussed were vaccine cooperation uh, and a certain amount of economic cooperation as well, which is a part of that. This is obviously not confirmed, but to my understanding, very soon, one of the Indian companies will be working with Johnson and Johnson to bring their vaccine to India and also
Wow.
develop another vaccine. So obviously, it's no longer just a strategic dialogue. It has evolved into something a lot bigger than was initially envisioned. Uh, I think it's an excellent thing. The potential of Australia, Japan, the US, and India cooperating is huge in this area. Uh, America has been looking to expand its footprint here. They've been building up in terms of their navy, etc., in the Asia Pacific. But they can't keep doing that. They need local partners to really work with them, local allies to work with them the way they want to. And I think the same goes for the rest of the two countries.
Australian foreign policy has largely been uh, very focused on maintaining its primary alliance with the United States while managing its primary economic relationship with China. And that has been the balancing act for Australia for a long period of time. But the recent actions of the administration have been quite interesting in the sense that this particular Prime Minister, Morrison, his first uh, overseas visit was to the Pacific, and he completely raised the profile of the Pacific in Australian foreign policy thinking, really pushing up economic assistance. Now, recently, a redirection of vaccine resources to the Pacific, particularly to Papua New Guinea, restoring some of that Australian focus on the Pacific, largely, I think, to combat increasing the rise of China's interest in the region. And then if you look at his relationship with world leaders, and the government's relationship with world leaders, upon the appointment of Prime Minister Suga in Japan, Prime Minister Morrison was one of the first to visit him, if not the first, and did quarantine on both sides and all that sort of thing to ensure that that visit happened. And obviously, there's a bit of a bromance going on between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Morrison, to the extent that Prime Minister Morrison has invented something called the Scamosa, which I always find a little odd. They're certainly not Goan style samosas, that's for sure. but nonetheless,